Hey guys, welcome back to Dreamin' Dragons. Today we're reproducing and multiplying with my favorite type of graft, the vertical node graft. But first, don't forget to give us a like and a subscribe to support the channel, as well as keeping up with all the other dragon fruity goodness we have going on here. Why are we grafting, you might ask? There's a few quick benefits that come to mind. You can really speed up the early growth when you graft onto a mature rootstock. Once the graft takes, it already has the established root system and growth will begin. This is compared to a new cutting which first has to develop roots before it's going to start pumping out quality growth. Some varieties typically have quite weak root systems or are vulnerable to the elements, and by grafting onto a variety that you know handles your climate well can give it much more resilience. Another reason, and why I'm usually at the grafting station, also known as the dining room table, is because I have limited plant material and I want to reproduce the plant. When grafting, you can easily turn one cutting into 100 replicas. Each node, or spike, can be a clone. So today, as I mentioned, we're going to be walking through how I do a vertical node graft. Why I like the vertical node graft compared to the one where you're growing from the side is that the new growth is growing directly up, and on a trellis it saves having to train the new growth in an upwards direction. I don't have much worth variegated flesh. I've only had it for a few months, and with the novelty of its variegations, it's a variety I'd like to have more of. So I'm going to mark out the node I'll be cutting out. You want a plump node for best chance of success. Always remember to clean your cutting tools with alcohol before you use them. Once you cut your node, you want to quickly get into grafting to minimize drying out. Here I have my mature rootstock, as you can see by the cambium, the inner core, which is quite woody. As you can see here, I have a bit of trouble getting a nice smooth cut through the woody core. You really want to get it as smooth a cut as possible. Starting off with a bigger rootstock gives you more insurance in case you botch the first few cuts like I've done here. Once you have a nice smooth cut, it's time to place your node on top. Some grafters insist that it needs to have some connection with that inner core. I've found no difference. If anything, for quite woody cores like this one, I find it a little easier and more success not having a connection with the core at all. Make sure your node and rootstock are completely flat against each other with no gaps. Tape them firmly together. I leave the actual spike clear to allow room for potential early growth as well. Once that's firmly fastened on, I cut the remaining nodes from the rootstock. The nodes are the location where you're going to get energy spent through new growth. So by removing all the nodes you don't want growth through, it'll pump that grafted node with all that goodness. Next, whack the date on it and the grafted nodes variety. I then put a bag on it for about 10 days or so to keep the humidity up. And hey presto, you have yourself a graft. Alright, and thanks again for joining the madness, guys. Cheers.